You are walking down a crowded street. Someone collapses 10 feet away from you. Your body does something strange in that first second. It waits. Not because you don't care, because of something buried so deep in your nervous system that you don't even know it's running. What if the reason you hesitate has nothing to do with who you are and everything to do with how many people are standing next to you? In 1964, a woman named Kitty Genovese was murdered outside her apartment building in New York. The story that spread afterward claimed dozens of neighbors heard her screams and did nothing. That story turned out to be exaggerated. But it sparked a question two psychologists couldn't let go of. Why does a crowd sometimes make people less likely to help, not more? Latané and John Darley didn't accept the easy answer. The easy answer was that city life had made people cold, cruel, even. They thought something else was happening. So they built an experiment. They placed people in a room, alone or with strangers, and staged an emergency. Smoke seeping under a door. A person having a seizure through an intercom. And they measured something nobody had measured before. Not whether people were good or bad, just whether they acted and how fast. The results were almost eerie in their consistency. When someone was alone, they helped almost every time, often within seconds. When there were other people present, the odds of helping dropped sharply. The more bystanders in the room, the less likely any single person was to move. Latané and Darley gave this a name: diffusion of responsibility. Your brain, without asking permission, quietly splits the weight of an emergency across every person who can see it. If 5 people are watching, you unconsciously feel like you're only carrying 1/5 of the duty to act. Nobody decided to be selfish. The responsibility just got divided before anyone chose anything. But there's a second force at work, and it's sneakier. Psychologists call it pluralistic ignorance. Here's what that means, in plain terms. You look around at other people's faces to figure out how to feel about a situation. If nobody else looks alarmed, you assume it isn't actually an emergency. Meanwhile, everyone else is doing the exact same thing, scanning your face, assuming your calm expression means you know something they don't. A room full of people can convince itself, in complete silence, that nothing is wrong, even while something is very wrong. Think about what that means for your own life. Have you ever been in a group chat where something felt off, but nobody said anything, so you didn't either? That is pluralistic ignorance, running exactly the same script it ran in Latané and Darley's smoke-filled room. Your phone screen and a stranger's front porch are running the same ancient software. Why would evolution build a brain this way? Here's where it gets stranger. For most of human history, you lived in small groups. 20, maybe 50 people. In a group that size, everyone knew everyone. Reputation was currency. If you froze while someone needed help, everyone would know, and everyone would remember. That social pressure kept the ancient bystander effect in check, because anonymity barely existed. The math only breaks in crowds of strangers. And strangers, city-sized crowds of them, are an extremely recent invention. Your brain is running social software built for villages, but you're using it in a species that now lives in stadiums, subways, and comment sections. There's a researcher named Robert Cialdini who spent decades studying what actually gets people to act instead of freeze. He found something almost absurdly simple. If you are ever the one who needs help, do not shout, "Somebody help me." Point at one specific person. Say what you need, directly to their face. You, in the blue jacket, call an ambulance. The moment responsibility has a single, named target, diffusion collapses instantly. The crowd's silent negotiation ends because there's nothing left to negotiate. One person, one job, no ambiguity. This single idea has quietly reshaped emergency response training around the world. Lifeguards are taught it. Flight attendants are taught it. CPR classes now open with it, because trainers realized that teaching people how to do chest compressions was useless if nobody stepped forward to start them. The bottleneck was never skill. It was permission. And permission, it turns out, is something you can hand someone with a single sentence. Here's a twist that unsettles even psychologists who study this for a living. Being a good person does not protect you from the bystander effect. In follow-up studies, researchers found no meaningful difference in helping behavior between people who rated themselves as highly empathetic and those who didn't. The freeze isn't a character flaw. It's a systems failure, and systems failures don't care about your values. A brilliant, kind, generous person can stand frozen in a crowd for the exact same reason a distracted, self-absorbed person does. The size of the group is doing more work than the size of anyone's conscience. There's a modern mirror to all of this that you've probably lived through without naming it. Online harassment happens in front of thousands of witnesses, and almost none of them intervene. Not because the internet made people heartless, because a thread with 10,000 viewers feels, to any single viewer, like someone else's responsibility. The mathematics Latané and Darley discovered in a laboratory hallway in the 1960s scaled up perfectly into a technology they never could have imagined. Same wiring, bigger room. Even climate change carries a version of this signature. 8 billion people can see the emergency. 8 billion people can quietly assume someone else, some other country, some other generation, is the one meant to act. Diffusion of responsibility doesn't only apply to a person collapsing on a sidewalk. It scales to anything large enough that nobody feels singled out. The bystander effect might be one of the most consequential psychological patterns on the planet, precisely because most people have never heard its name. So here is the question worth sitting with. The next time you're in a group and something feels wrong and nobody is reacting, ask yourself honestly, is this actually fine? Or is everyone around you simply running the same silent calculation you are, waiting for someone else to move first? Latané called this the unresponsive bystander. But there's a better way to say it. Everyone in that room is capable of acting. They're just all waiting to find out if it's their turn. Tonight, you're walking down a crowded street again, at least in your mind. Someone needs help. This time, you already know what your body is quietly calculating before you've even decided to stop. And now you know something else too. That the fastest way to break the freeze isn't more courage. It's one clear voice, cutting through the diffusion, pointing directly at you.